Hello everyone, I'm Alejandro and I want to tell you a story that happened to me a couple of years ago. I'm not very good at writing, but this experience was so terrifying that I can't keep it just for myself. I warn you that what you are about to read is real, and I hope you never have to go through something similar. It was summer and the heat in the city was unbearable. I decided to take a week's vacation and went to a cabin my family has in a small town in the mountains. The place was perfect to disconnect from the hustle and bustle of the city, with tall trees and a river running near the cabin. I arrived on a Monday afternoon and settled in quickly. Everything seemed to be in order. The first night was quiet. The sound of crickets and the river lulled me to sleep, and I slept soundly. The next day, I decided to explore the surroundings a bit. I walked along the forest trails, enjoying the quiet and fresh air. As evening fell, I returned to the cabin, tired but content. The second night, something strange happened. I was awakened in the middle of the night by a noise outside. It sounded like someone was walking around the cabin. I lay in bed, trying to hear more clearly. The footsteps were slow and steady, but I couldn't see anything through the window. After a few minutes, the noises stopped and I went back to sleep, thinking maybe it was an animal. The third night was when things got really strange. I was awakened again by the noises, but this time they were different. They weren't footsteps, but like someone was scraping the walls of the cabin. I plucked up my courage and got up to investigate. Stepping out onto the porch with a flashlight, I saw no one. However, I noticed some strange marks on the cabin walls, as if someone had been scratching them with something sharp. It gave me a bad feeling, but I decided I would not let fear control me. On the fourth day, during the afternoon, I went to the nearby town to buy some supplies. As I walked through the small market, I noticed that people were looking at me strangely. As I passed an antique store, the owner, an older man, called out to me. I approached and he asked me if I was staying at the Montoya's cabin. I told him yes, and his expression changed to one of concern. He told me to be careful, that strange things had been happening in that area lately, and that I should not be out alone at night. His warning made me uneasy, but I didn't think much of it. That night, I was more alert than ever. I locked all the doors and windows tightly and made sure everything was in its place. I went to bed hoping for a quiet night, but it wasn't to be. Around midnight, the noises started again. This time, they were louder and closer. I could clearly hear footsteps around the cabin and scratching on the walls. Suddenly, the noise stopped and all was quiet. I was about to relax when I heard the creak of the back door. Someone was trying to open it. I jumped out of bed and ran to the kitchen, where I had a knife stashed away. I armed myself with it and waited, my heart pounding. The door opened slowly and a figure appeared in the darkness. It was a young man, with a demented look in his eyes. He said nothing, just advanced towards me with a knife in his hand. Fear paralyzed me for a moment, but then I reacted and tried to defend myself. There was a brief and desperate struggle. I managed to wound him, but he wounded me too. Bleeding and desperate, I managed to push him out and slam the door shut. I heard his footsteps walking away quickly, and I collapsed on the ground, exhausted and injured. I called the police and told them what had happened. They arrived quickly and began searching for the intruder. They found traces of blood leading to the forest, but were unable to find him that night. The next day, while the police were investigating the area, they found a makeshift camp a few miles from the cabin. There, they discovered several personal items belonging to people who had gone missing in recent months. Among the items was a diary that revealed the disturbing thoughts of the young man who had attacked me. He turned out to be a psychopath who had been stalking visitors to the area, enjoying the terror he caused before committing his murders. Finally, the police managed to capture him a few days later. He was a young man of about 25 years old, who had been living in the forest and stalking people in the area for months. He was arrested and brought to trial, where he was convicted of several murders. Since then, I have not been back to the cabin. The experience scarred me forever. What scares me the most is to think of how many times he was near me, lurking in the dark, unbeknownst to me. Now, every time I hear a strange noise at night, I can't help but feel a shiver run down my spine. I hope this story serves as a warning to you. Always be aware of your surroundings and never underestimate what may be lurking in the dark.